Welcome back to the shop. Today we are going to make a pizza peel. So today we're gonna make a pizza peel because we bought a Blackstone pizza oven and we've been having fun making homemade pizzas in there. And the 5 of us, myself and the 4 kids, all made a pizza peel. No, we didn't take a video of it. So today we're making a video of me making one for Jenny. And we are gonna make it look like this, except for you're gonna add a maple strip kind of in this area. And I'll tell you, the mistake I made on this one is I used a full-size walnut piece here, and it kind of warped. I don't know if you can see that in the video, but it's a little warped. It's working fine, but it's a little warped. But these are really handy, so each kid can make their own pizza on the pizza peel and then take turns putting them in the pizza oven. So it's been really kind of a fun item to have. So we are going to make the pizza peel and today we're going to use this wood here. We're going to be using maple. That's not maple, but it is a pizza peel. We're using maple, and we are going to use purple wood. It's called Purple Heart. Yeah, I didn't know there was such a thing until I went down to Woodcraft and they had it. It's kind of expensive, but we thought Jenny's favorite color is purple, so we need to make a purple pizza peel for her. So let's get started. The first thing we need to do is cut for the handle, 2-inch piece by 24-inch piece. And so we are going to cut this right here at 24 inches. And I'm using this part of the wood because it has a lot of imperfections in this side and a little bit on this side actually. And so I'm going to cut a 2-inch piece out of the middle, and I didn't feel like I was wasting too much. So I'll give that a cut. And as I always tell my kids, when you're done with something, always put it away. And this is our pile of wood. And we stack it so it doesn't warp. We stack it neatly so it doesn't warp. So we'll be making our handle out of that. And then the other piece is the flat piece here of the Purple Heartwood. And we're just going to cut a couple pieces. We always cut it longer than we need it to, so we're going to cut 16-inch pieces of that. So let's look at our board and find out what we're going to use. Looks like this end is the better end. So let's cut, and it looks like we're still in a raw end here. Let's cut it a little longer to make sure we have enough. So let's cut it at 17 inches. We're going to need a total of around 5 1/4 inches for each side. It's about, right now it's 12.5 inches wide, but we got to make sure we have leave enough room for cutting and sanding and getting it shaped. So we are going to, I don't know, we'll have to decide how much we want this narrow maple piece to be in there, but it looks like currently this one's at 5 1/4 inches. So I am going to need a total of at least 10 inches of this. So we're going to need 2 boards cut. So let's do that right now. So we have a 17-incher, and what's 17 plus 17? 34, okay. So we need another one at 34 inches. Really hard to cut that expensive wood and not worry that I made a mistake. Well, as I always tell my kids, put it away when you're done. So next up is the jointer. So pick your side that you're going to use for the level side. Make sure you remember which one that is. Usually I mark it. That's the side that's got to go down on the table saw. Make this square. All right, so now we're gonna cut, first we're gonna cut the maple piece, and I've decided to make that extra maple piece, I can't hang on anything, I don't know what to do. The extra maple piece I'm gonna put in the middle is gonna be a 1/2 inch. So we need a 2 inch and a 1/2 inch of maple. Now we have our 2 inch piece, which will be our handle. Now I'm going to cut 2 at a 1/2 inch. All right, now we are going to cut our cherry pieces, or not our cherry pieces, our purple pieces. So right now we have this and this, and we'll cut these to size in a little bit. So let's do some figuring as far as how wide these need to be. If we want 12.5 inches total when we're done, we can figure maybe 13 inches now, so we have room for sanding. 13, and then you always gotta have your width of your blade in there. So 13 minus 2 is 11, minus the 2 halves, which is 1, should get you to 10. So based on that, we would need 5 inches on each side still, which would make sense. Does that make sense? 5 inches on each side. And if we need 5 inches on each side, let's make sure I figured, yes, 5 inches on each side. I need 2.5 inch strips. 2.5 inch, 2.5 inch, with a 1 in the middle. That would make 5.5 inches. So let's get those cut. Crazy. Okay, now I'm going to cut these to size. Because I didn't cut them to size yet because it was easier to finish it that way. Here's a little extra piece of purple wood. You never know what the kids might make out of that. "17 inches. These also have to be 17 inches. So now that we have all the boards cut, we are going to get ready to glue this. So this is what it's going to look like. When it's all done. But as you can see, Grant is already gluing and using my pipe clamps. So we are going to have to do this another day. So when we come back, I will be ready to glue this. So we'll see you right about. It is day 2 on the pizza peel project. And we have to glue. Last time Grant had his project being glued, so I couldn't glue mine. So today we're just going to get it glued so that tomorrow we can keep working on shaping it. So today is just gluing. All right. Put a strip in there. Use your finger to make sure that all edges are full of glue on this nice red stuff here, or purple heartwood. It's easy to see to make sure you got all the glue in the right spot because it's a totally different dark color. But on the maple, sometimes it's not as easy. Whip your fingers on a nice trusty t-shirt that you've been wearing all your life and decided to put it as a shop rag. Now, get them lined up as best we can. I always like to line them up against the ones that are going to turn so that they don't have to go so far. Then move the other ones close. Make sure the ends are lined up. We're going to cut all this off later, but it's nice to have them at least close. Give them another little tighten. Double check again. Every time you tighten, it can move a little more. And again, they popped up just a hair on the ends. Looks good and flat. Give it a final tighten. Nothing worse than things in the way. All right, give it one last look. Looks like it's all flat. And that's it for today. Now we gotta wait for this to dry overnight, and then we can work on shaping it and planing it and moving on to the project. We'll see you next time, like right after this. It's another day at the shop. It's Saturday, so we have a little more time today to work on things. So we're back to Mom's pizza peel. Next step is to take it out of the gluing stage, get it through the planer. So let's get working on it. First thing we need to do is get as much of this extra glue that came off in here as possible, because it's really hard on the planer blades to have that hard glue stuck on there. So we get as much off as possible. Not just the blades, the deck of the planer also has a big scratch in it from Grant's last project. If you wonder what we're used for this is, it's a wallpaper remover scraper. Should have had my safety goggles on. So what we're looking for is just to have so that the big bumps are gone. So there's nothing that goes on the planer to scratch the planer. All right, I think that's good enough. So the first thing we're gonna do is run this through the planer and get all the extra glue off and get it smooth on both sides. And then we're gonna use our template to give it a curve. Now this is the one we've made before. You can see how it's got a curve to it. It's thicker on this end and it goes down to a small. That's what we're gonna do on the planer with this template. It's not really a template, it's a jig. I'll get my terms correct eventually. Okay, now we have it at the desired width as far as the handle and this end of the board. And so the next thing we have to do is start to get this shaped on here. Well, let's get that top edge cut. What saw we're going to use for that? Let's use the table saw. Okay, so the idea is we're making this, put this on this jig so that we can stick it through the planer again, and it'll make a nice, perfect slope to it. So the only way to do that is you can't put nails in it, because if you put nails in it, the planer blade's gonna hit the nails. So what we came up with is the idea of putting dowels in it. So we drill holes and put dowels through. Do that, and since we already have our marks of where the line is going to be for the shape, we just make sure our dowels are outside of that shape in the holes. And I like to do one at a time. That's the only way to keep them lined up. So I could use the same old dowels from the last one, and that may work. Let's see how long they are. Yep, those will work. And now I need a hammer.
I'm gonna take this thing off and hold it on that.
And that should hold it in that spot. And then to keep it square, we'll do it on the other side. See that after a while, you can only make so many with this template, and you'll have to make a new one. Oops. Oh, right down the drain.
Did you want to start the same jig?
And then I usually use the handsaw to cut it off. And they cut it off a little high because I want to pound it in a little further, and it's a lot easier to do it that way. That easy. Make sure it's in all the way, which it wasn't. And now it's secure. And then we do the same thing on this end. Now, since we've already done this once before, we had our heights have already been decided. So you can see how much thicker this one is. And some of you may want to know, how thick did you make it? Well, the end of this, or the thick end of the pizza peel is a 1/2 inch thick. And then I used, looks like it's a little over a 1/2 inch. That's my spacer. And then on this end, because you have the handle that's in the way, you also have to put a spacer here, and that one is about a 1/4 inch. If I didn't have that handle on there, you can just put this board flat on this board, but because of the handle, we had to put this in here. And this one you want to go all the way into the OSB. Looks like it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. So we were at a 1/2 inch when we stopped this, so we have a 1/2 inch piece of OSB, we have a 1/2 inch board up here, and another 1/2 inch here, so it's 1.5 inches. where we start. Here we go. So there you have your slanted board. It's slanted about up to about here, which is great. Now we got to sand, so it'll take a little bit more off, and then I always just sand a little edge to it also. No, this is our new, what do you call this thing? It's our new sander. It's a new drum sander. We just picked this up, it's used, and we used it on Grant's project. So we'll see how it works on here. We've got to keep it in the jig in order to do this, otherwise you won't be able to do it. I should have sanded the back side before I did it, but I didn't. So we'll have to sand that by hand. Pretty good. All right, we should run it through a few more times. I think we're gonna have to change the belt first.
Duct tape is gone.
Yes, because it was so wide. Forgot about that. We're gonna change the sandy belt and we'll get right back to you. All right. We changed the sandpaper, so we're ready to go. Let's do this again. Oh, that sanded nice. Look at that. All right, I'm gonna run a few more times. I got a few grooves here at the end where there's a knot, and that from the planer just kind of chipped away at it. So we're gonna sand it a couple more times, little by little. Wow, that took a lot off. All right, I think we're okay now to take it off our jig. And we're going to have to redraw our lines. So let's take it off our jig. We'll slide it right off. Like so. As you can see, that was the little mark the planer chipped out of there when it went through the planer the last time. But we will work on fixing that. And now we'll get into the carving phase. So we'll put find our pencil back.
Right here. Right here.
And because we just sanded off and planed off our lines, we will redraw them. We're just going to make this one, because I made the wood a little wider, I'm just going to keep it a little wider. But we'll use this as a kind of a template. Alright, so I'm going to take this over to the bandsaw. I'm going to cut out the little pieces as close to the line as I can so that I can do the rest with the sander. Got myself trapped in a corner here. Poke it. I'm bleeding. All right, we'll still have that little imperfection there. But now we're gonna try to sand, just like on this other one. You can see I sanded it to try to remove, to make it a slightly more sloped. So we'll be doing that in a minute. But the next thing we do is sand it to the size we want. So we gotta sand here and get all the edges sanded, and then sand this again, and then sand the back side again, and get it all perfect. And I like to always keep cut beyond the line so that I can just sand up to the line is my goal. As you can see, our sanding disc has a lot of crap in the disc, so we really need to put a new piece of sandpaper on there, which is causing things to burn like this. But at least it's smooth and we can hand sand the rest of those burns off. I'm going to work on this little edge here yet, and then we'll go over to the spindle sander and do the rest of this. And I probably will do this handle a little bit too. All right, let's get the spindle sander. I think our battery died in the middle of the sanding, but hopefully you got the point of it. So the next thing we need to do is make the handle. So I'm going to cut a couple boards similar to this. This one I use scrap. I don't really have scrap I can use for that right now. So I am going to have to plane a couple boards, and I'll probably, instead of this one where I made them two different sizes, I will probably make them both the same size. And it's really just to give it a little bit of substance to hang on to. So what we're going to do is we're going to make two boards this width and glue them to both sides of this. Let's get to it.
This could be interesting. Because your pieces are gonna fall once the top one's gonna fall once it cuts on too.
My son is concerned that the pieces are going to fall apart when I cut these apart. What do you think? Alright, so now I have our two sides of our handle, and they're actually pretty smooth. I am going to actually use the smoothest two sides, and I'm going to attach them onto here. And I got to cut them to length yet, but so that the glue is really, really strong. If I use the rougher sides, it won't be quite as good, but I could sand them, so I probably will sand them on the sander just to make sure that both sides are smooth. Put a little glue on one side, and as you watched my videos before, you see that I always glue both sides of everything I glue. In other words, I glue this part, and then I glue this part. Yes, you get a lot of extra glue that lays around, but then you know at least there's not one spot that's loose. All right. We don't want glue too far that way. So there's one. There's the second one. Now let's clamp these together. One, two. And there it is. Even there, even there, even there. So when we're done, we'll sand that and we'll router it to a nice round. We'll decide what we do. And we might even carve Jenny's name in there. And she wasn't supposed to look at this, but look who just showed up. All right, so we're gonna have to let this dry. I'm actually gonna take a little of this glue off so I don't have to chip away at it later and sand all that off. That is it for today. We'll see you next time. We're back in the shop today trying to finish Jenny's pizza peel. So here it is. The last thing we did was glue the handle together. Now we're gonna take it apart and finish the handle. So let's get started. Look at that. I think the first thing we'll do is get some sand off a lot of this extra glue. So we'll go over here to the sander. Alright, so that gets most of it. Alright, so that gets at least the glue off. Now we're going to take it to the router and round the edges. And then once those are done, we can sand it some more. Oh, it's got a nice round handle. Oh, hefty. I don't like this edge here, so I'm gonna round these on the sander and then come back and then we gotta figure out what we're gonna do here. bigger imperfections, I'm going to do a sand on the sander first. All right, it's all sanded and ready for oil. All right, before we put the oil on, we're gonna make sure it's good and clean. So I use the air compressor for that. All right, so this is the oil that we use, cutting board oil. Nothing too fancy, you can buy it at your local hardware store. And all you have to do is dump it on your, and this really makes the color come out. Just rub it in. Then we need to do 2 coats of this. So once we get 1 coat on, let it dry a little bit, and then we'll put the 2nd coat on. So there's the first coat. We'll give it a couple more minutes. We don't have to give it very long, just a couple minutes, and then we'll put the 2nd coat on. And then it'll be done and ready for pizzas this evening. We'll be back in a few. All right, we're gonna put the 2nd coat on now. Look at that. We were just commenting about how it doesn't look as purple as it used to. But I'll show you, we have a purple carpet here that we use. And then I'll show you compared to our other one. It was made with walnut. And that's the difference. But let me put a little cutting board oil on this. And you need to put this oil on, every so many uses. I don't know how many, whenever you feel like it. Like to keep it looking good. All right. There's the 2 cutting boards. Look how beautiful this purple is though. When you look at it next to the walnut, it just looks perfect. So, this is the end of the cutting board, or it's not even a cutting board, the pizza peel project for Jenny's Pizza Peel. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you want to see more.